Welcome to the American Intelligence Media. We're with our friend who is a representative of the Americans for Innovation, and today we're going to be presenting to you a new dossier. A dossier to make the PP dossier and the Caca dossier absolutely the laughable pieces of junk that they are. We're going to give you something that AG Barr can use to put dozens of people who we've already named in jail for treason. We call it the Treason Report by U.S. Citizen Intelligence. And we have, of course, invited on the show the number one person who has provided the crime line and the 20 years of research, indictable evidence on almost any of your favorite swamp creatures. You can go to the Americans for Innovation, plug in their name, and get as much evidence as a junior attorney would need to put those people in jail for treason. So we're welcoming Michael McKibben to the show. Hi, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Douglas. Great to talk to you on this Monday.
Well, I'm really happy to talk to you because I had heard reports that you were down in the mines and you dug such a deep hole you'd reached England. You'd gone into the Atlantic and you reached England. Yes. And you came up in the bedroom of Arvinder Sambai, and you just haven't stopped this research on this person because this is, of course, the handler of Comey and anyone who runs the FBI, which would also be Robert Mueller. So you are literally uncovering every single speck of evidence, and it's well hidden on Arvinder Sambai, who is really the handler of our FBI. Isn't that incredible?
Right. Well, what we're learning is that the British have a lot more flexibility in how they rig the laws around the world, and they were really directing our FBI and our DOJ from their more flexible platform in the UK.
Well, when you really don't have citizens, you have subjects. It's a whole different story when you can't prosecute the people at the top in Britain, and that has bled over to be an Anglo-American version where we can't very much in the past really do anything about the people at the top and their crimes and the White House cabals that have been created from the first Bush takeover of the White House, then the second Bush takeover of the White House, and of course the Clintons and the Obamas. What we have here are literally a path of treason. But what we've put together, Betsy and her team, with you, in coordination with all your researchers and Americans for Innovation and Aim for Truth, Truth Bits, and the whole deal, is a treason report. Literally, that's the name of it, because the Robert Mueller report is going to be just like the 9/11 report. It's going to be garbage. It's going to be just like the Warren report. Garbage. It's just like what has been called the PP dossier, the Russian dossier in Trump, which has been proven to be garbage. And then we call the Robert Mueller report the Caca dossier, because it is full of caca, as well as obfuscation, and as well as it's the biggest smokescreen and cover-up in U.S. history. So we created, with the brilliant mind of Betsy Ross, the treason dossier. And this treason report is no joke. AG Barr, if you can't prosecute any of these people that we have seen in the news who are the leakers and are proud of it, who are the treasonous son of a guns, who literally they've proudly worn what they have done in terms of attacking Trump for 2 years, and it's been in the mainstream media, so anybody paying any attention would have known who these treasonous people are. And now we have for AG Barr all he needs, because they use, remember, it's illegal to use a piece of evidence that is unverified, especially like the salacious unverified Russian dossier, to basically drive an investigation. But that's what has been happening for 2 years, 2.5 years. Crossfire Hurricane turned into 12 other names, and then it turned into the special counsel. And now that that's over, it's turned into the House, the Democrats in the House attacking Trump to try to create impeachment. Because this has always been an overthrow. It's always been an attempt to stop an election, to stop a duly elected president, and to overthrow a duly sitting president. And so this is treason, and this is no joke. We're not kidding. We don't use this word lightly. We don't use the word sedition lightly. If A.G. Barr cannot prosecute with what is being given in the Treason Report by U.S. citizen intelligence, then we need to elect Michael McKibben as our new Attorney General, because I know that he can make sure to put all these people in jail with this evidence.
Stick me with a fork.
Will you be the new Citizen Attorney General and go after these people?
That was a question?
Yes.
That's what we've been doing for the last 10 years.
There you go. That's the
As
answer.
it turns out. Douglas, one of the things I think that we're learning about all these reports and all this hoopla in the media is our attorneys at some point along the way stopped, if they ever were seeking justice and seeking law, and they've all become very bad fiction writers. And this isn't fiction that anyone else normally than other attorneys will ever read, and that has been the way they have operated. And what we're seeing in these dossiers is their best shot at writing a novel. And obviously they do a bad job at it. And so these documents are pretend arguments. They are pretend evidence, because what they know is the average person doesn't know how to evaluate whether this is good or bad legal writing. And as a civil engineer, I have been forced by necessity to start learning a lot of this stuff in order to defend against it. And what we see it's real clear, what we see in the Mueller evidence is masses of quotes of New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, and we all need to know that that is third-party evidence. That is called hearsay. That is not evidence. Rarely is evidence. It's not always not evidence, but generally it's not evidence. And because of that, the entire dossier is a piece of crap. It doesn't mean anything. It's meant for television. It's meant for propaganda. It's meant to fool people. It's not meant to find justice. And what we, as people on Main Street who thought we had a republic, a constitutional republic, have got to realize that the entire, it appears, almost the entire legal profession has been so caught up in impressing each other with this bad novel writing that they don't even know how to practice law anymore. And I hate to be so general with it, because you can't ever say that about everyone in the legal profession. But the problem is, we were never told that it's as bad as it is. I was never told. I was never told by attorneys that I considered respectable that it's as bad as it is. But it's as bad as it is. And here's the real problem. If you look at the legal disciplinary rules, the lawyers are very quick to defend something called self-policing. Lawyers and judges, they all make a big deal that they're a self-policing professional organization. And so therein is the indictment against the entire profession. We're now seeing, by this attack on our sitting president and the attack on our republic, that they're not self-policing. In fact, they've done just the opposite. And it's gotten so bad that they just are now not even ashamed of their lies. They're just openly lying and hope that they lie on Monday, they say something else on Tuesday, and they look at you cross-eyed when you said, well, wait, you lied on Monday. And it's gotten so bad that they're hoping to just kind of, I think, bowl over mainstream America with this continuous spew of lies. And what we have worked on, and this is a lot of people whom I thank right now for this document, is all indictable evidence. And this is evidence that can be taken to court and used as evidence to prove that these people have engaged in the most massive conspiracy, and I'll say it, in the history of the world. probably short of the crucifixion of Christ. This is so bad.
You're right.
That we've never been here before. So we citizens have got to get up to speed and take back our republic, or take our republic, finish the job that was started in 1776, and then hijacked, it appears now, by the London bankers right after the war was won. And now finish the job, strip out all this propaganda machine that's been active now since the invention of wireless, and has carried right on into TV and then into the internet and the theft of our technology and others, and the weaponization of all the technology and patents that these people have engaged in, and they just thought they were going to get away with it all. And thank God Donald Trump stepped in, and he said, no, we're not going to let it go here. And I don't think we're out of the woods yet, but at least we have a shot.
Well, I like what you said. It is a bad fiction. I mean, this is like a bad romance, okay? And anyone who would read the Christopher Steele Russian dossier that didn't laugh after the first sentence is an idiot. And anyone who would believe it is like an idiot to the idiot power. Okay? And then if you would read the Mueller report, anyone who would believe that you don't, in every single sentence, it's trying to obfuscate the real guilt of who did the real crime, every single sentence, then you're not very smart either.
He did give us one clue to who he really is. And that's when on page 340 something, he cites the U.S. v. Williams case in 1992, where Mueller and a group of cronies cajoled the Supreme Court into allowing grand juries to be lied to by the prosecutors without throwing the case out. And the crazy thing is, he cited his own case that he worked on as a U.S. attorney to justify being able to lie to grand juries and continue on indictments where the exculpatory evidence of the person's innocence was withheld by the prosecutor. Now we learn, after looking at that, so that was a tell. That was like a bad card player. He told us what his defense is, and now we see that he used that same defense for the bombing of the World Trade Center, for Ruby Ridge, for Waco, for the Oklahoma City bombing, for 9/11. Now we're seeing his handler in the UK, Arvinder Singh Bai, has used exactly the same frame-ups to frame the guy that they accused of training the 9/11 hijackers, who in 2010 was exonerated of all the charges. Now, where was the world press when it was then proven that Mueller and Arvinder Singh Bai lied to the courts in the UK about this and accused this guy of things he never did?
Well,
and I'm beginning to wonder if there were any hijackers at all.
Well, we had asked the question, who had trained Mueller back in the late 70s, and we knew it was Chandler and the whole gang, but we didn't know that it was Arvinder Singh Bai, who's an expert in counterterrorism, who's an expert in international criminality, and is an international criminal herself, and we didn't know she was the handler of whoever the head of the FBI is. That's the reason that when you look at Mueller, you have to say, let's look at the 9/11 report. Oh, you mean the 28 missing pages, which has the real indictable evidence in it, which has now been released, and of course all the lawsuits have come forward because of that. Why? Who were they protecting? James Baker, and so they were protecting Brennan and the other people involved in this. So then you look at, how about Mueller? How about Uranium One? Oh, Uranium One was in bed with the Russians for 10 years. Oh, and now he's taken over the Crossfire Hurricane.
But he's allowed to withhold. He's allowed to withhold all that evidence in his dossier because of the case U.S. v. Martin that he pushed through in 1992, and he's cited in the very report that says he can withhold whatever he wants, even if it proves the person's innocence, and they can carry on indicting people without any penalty.
And that's what this grand jury special investigation farce has been all about. First deed he did, give Comey complete immunity for all of Comey's crimes, which then included his crimes. And that's the exculpatory evidence that would have shown that Trump was completely innocent because Comey was completely guilty. Comey is a treasonous, traitorous, seditious person who needs to meet the fate of what a treasonous traitor meets. And when we look at this history, we can see that the very first thing they did was give immunity to Comey. In other words, stack the evidence. And then out of the 500 people that they interviewed, they're only going to tell you the people that they crucified their lives because they were Republicans.
Well, you know what that was all about. Now it's obvious. That was about figuring out if anybody knew anything else so they could cover it up.
With the Mueller,
it was a fishing expedition.
That's right.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Absolutely. They're looking for the witch so that you could what? Kill the witch and steal her land. That's what they wanted. They wanted to kill Trump, steal the White House. But what did you get? What did you get from the Robert Mueller caca dossier? You got 2 U.S. whores who were paid by David Brock to lie, 1 Russian whore who messed with Mueller so bad, got him to get her out of prison, I think in Thailand or somewhere. Then she laughed at him from Russia because she was always a Russian spy. Oh, that's right. That was the Russian whore who was in Thailand. Oh, then there was the 12 imaginary Russians, part of the IRA, which they didn't exist. That organization closed in 2014. Then there was the 13 imaginary Russian spies. And then you got Cohen. Oh, let's see, Cohen. Who did they take Cohen down with? Felix Sater, his best friend. Well, Felix Sater is a spy for Comey. Oh, let's see. Then they took down Manafort. Well, let's see. Podesta did the exact same crimes working for the exact same people, and he didn't get prosecuted. Oh, they took down Rick Gates, and they are taking down others, and that's to hide Hillary. So what you got with Mueller is just another exoneration of Hillary. And so the caca dossier of Mueller, that report, don't waste your time. Throw it on your fire. It might make good kindling, but probably not because it's really just caca. But if you want to read the real evidence, you want to know what's been going on for the last 2 years, and we have proof because we have time stamps on this stuff. We have the dates that they were done, telling you over 2 years ago about all of these things. Because why? Follow the money, follow the indictable evidence, follow the lawsuits, follow who does what and who meets what, when and where in relationship to the biography, and you're going to find out that the Treason Report should have at the top a picture of John McCain. And some of you think I'm crazy.
Well, you know,
you'll find out it's the truth.
One of the things we've noticed over the years is that all the mainstream media, and this isn't 100% true, but it's generally true, when the mainstream media writes about a particular situation, they never give you the source material. And so, therefore, you're left to go out hunting for it, which most people don't have time to do. But that's really the thing that our folks have focused on, is finding the underlying source material so that we can get past all of this made-for-TV fluff that's put out as news. And shame on these journalists for putting out all these articles that they pump out every day, and they don't link to the actual evidence. I mean, it's frustrating going through these articles.
But you always link to the evidence. That's why we haven't spoken with you for weeks, because you've been down in the mines. We had to send people looking for you, and they haven't come back yet. Okay?
Yeah.
So Arvinder Sambai, I don't know what Michael McKibben is about to do to you, but I would go run and hide. But we already know she's running and hiding because she's
there's a bunch of people
covering
in
her
Europe
trail.
Helping too.
Oh, yes. Now, I just want to repeat. The collusion delusion report is exactly as Michael McKibben says. It is complete sensationalistic, stupid fiction written by junior high school students. Christopher Steele combined 5 dossiers to make his dossier, and it reads that way. And it is not an intelligence report. There's not one speck, not one single iota of evidence in it, not one.
No, and I now know what he was doing. He was looking for phrases. He was looking for paragraphs that would sound official. They didn't have to be official. They didn't have to tie to any real evidence. They just had to look like they were authoritative. And then he just kept stringing those all together into this big, bad novel. And so that's all he was looking for.
It was
Since
a
he couldn't-
302.
He's not creative enough to do it himself.
It was a Mueller-Comey Special 302 written by a trusted agent in the field, which means it is law until otherwise proven. And it was all fake. And it was from foreign agents, and it was Russiagate, it was Spygate, it was Britain-gate, it was Crown-gate, it was whatever gate you want. The point is, through that gate came evil, and those people need to pay for their sins. Now, when I read stupid Mueller's report, the Caca dossier, it made me want to vomit at every sentence because it was the same exact type of writing as the Steele dossier. So we are antidoting that, folks. And the other antidote is to get Silicon Valley out of our next election and stop throwing every single conservative or anyone who speaks truth off the internet. And how is that going to happen?
We've got to focus on the keys, the encryption keys to all of our state election officials who those keys are being controlled by Hillary Clinton, Rose Law Firm, and Jerry Jones on the one hand, by former Homeland Security Director Michael Chertoff on the other, and thirdly by Robert Mueller through Cloudflare. And we've got to get a handle on the distribution of the data from the counties to the state. That is the key. That's where this election is going to be stolen.
I love it when you talk indictable evidence like that. It sends a chill up my spine. Because that is what should be on mainstream media tonight, folks. What
Right.
he just said. And anything less is treasonous itself. And if you don't think the mainstream media is treasonous, and you don't think that the people they set up to keep the envelope very tight and to keep the narrative and the spin exactly right, then you're just not paying attention. So what we have here is the opportunity with the Treason Report by U.S. Citizen Intelligence to be the antidote of Robert Mueller's Caca dossier, which no one will read anyway. I read it. I recommend you don't. It's really stupid. The whole thing is wrong. Here's what he should have said. No. That should have been the whole report. No.
Yep.
There was none. 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 There you go. There's the whole report. None, 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 and none. Now, what we have is with the Miller Act is the opportunity to take down this fake Silicon Valley racketeering that's been going on, that has been surveilling all of us, targeting many of us, and attacking us, and certainly interfering in the 2016 election. We've proven that. In the Treason Report by U.S. Citizens Intelligence, you will find much evidence proving all of this. I'm not going to go into that. But it's happening again, and now it's overt, and Britain has practically picked up shop and come over to America and taken over Facebook and taken over Google and taken over YouTube. And Soros might as well be on the front lawn of the White House thinking he's going to move in with Biden and Hillary as soon as they become the man and woman first ever president together. But anyway, the sickness of these people that can imagine such type of thoughts as I just gave to you are the same people who need to be taken down by simply convincing Trump to get a copy of the Treason Report, give it to Barr, and say, act on this or else I'll get someone who can. Junior lawyers can prosecute these people with this much evidence. So, folks, Get behind the Miller Act. Get Leader Technology paid.
If I could stop you there, Douglas. The Miller Act notice is the amended Miller Act notice that's just being now sent to the White House by our shareholders, and it's including new evidence, additional evidence of the conspiracy. It's clearly a conspiracy of the Department of Defense, the Office of Net Assessment, Highlands Group, the intelligence community to weaponize our invention of social networking and to use it for two things. One, surveillance, and two, profit-making through Wall Street. And so what we're asking the president to do is use the Treasury, write us a check to pay our shareholders for 17 years of abuse of our invention, and then pay a license for ongoing use. That will get everybody straight with the illegal use right now that's going on worldwide. And with that, me and many of our shareholders are willing to take most of that cash and put it back into developing a free press and start moving our country in the right direction toward continuing the establishment of a constitutional republic.
And Trump will believe this because now he totally believes that he is in the middle of a coup d'etat, a George Soros color revolution. And so when he hears, as he has heard many hundreds of times as the president, that past presidents have known all these things were messed up for decades and they did nothing about it except put a tax on it so they'd make money. They went to where the money was. So they went with the Silicon Valley racketeers. And that's the reason there was a revolving door in and out of the White House, and the reason the 2016 election was completely rigged by Eric Schmidt and the others who worked with Obama. And all of these other things we're talking about are the lower rung. There is a much higher rung that we've already revealed in all of these things. So if you've been following along with us, I want to say one thing. I want to say I apologize. And I apologize to you, Michael, because I've been yelling in your ear for years. I've been yelling and yelling and yelling to try to get people's attention, to say, here is the proof. We don't give you an intelligence report without the proof. And we're showing you, we already gave you the 28 treasonous crimes of Comey. I don't know how long ago that was, well over 2 years ago probably. We enumerated them, and I got bored. Those are the ones who came to the top of my head. 28 treasonous crimes of Comey. How about McCabe's 5 investigations, which are all treasonous, and nothing has happened? What about Mueller? What if we investigate Mueller and investigate this special counsel?
Well,
millions
that's
of
because
things.
The Department of Justice and the judiciary have been part of this plan to basically create a new world order, using America as the policeman for this globalist group. And of course they're not going to act on all this evidence because they're crooked. They're treasonous. They're working with foreign powers. And so what we need is a real group. I don't know whether it's military tribunals. I don't know whether it's some kind of reformed Department of Justice and reformed judiciary. But we need a group of people that are actually looking at the Constitution and then looking at these facts. Because all we're seeing now is they just take the facts and throw them in the black hole.
There's 3 types: military tribunals, and for people like Robert Mueller, who have been military like myself, I know the contracts he signed, the security contracts. That's it. He goes to jail for the rest of his life, has to pay fees even he can't pay, which is really, those would be big fees, especially with his offshore accounts. So, you know, what's going to happen to these people? There's 2 other ways you can prosecute citizen traitors. And that was in the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings. It's very, very clear. There's 3 ways that you can put these traitors in jail, and in some cases, they will be military prosecuted, which, depending upon what that particular tribunal determines, could be a hanging or a shooting.
We need some tribunal that starts paying attention to the Constitution, because our judiciary is asleep. Not asleep. They're complicit.
They're complicit.
Just totally complicit. Every once in a while, they might throw a bone out there. But the point is, the whole system is full of this cancer.
That is why, and I'll end on this note, that is why, and I'm just going to paint this as clear as I can for anyone who's not a believer out there, and anyone who hasn't been red-pilled, I'm sorry, I'm going to red-pill you. If you donated to Hillary Clinton and you didn't know that was a corrupt foundation, you're an idiot and you committed a crime because you knew you shouldn't take it as a tax deduction. And why do every single criminal in Washington District of Crime, why is every one of them a donor to the Clinton Foundation? Pay to play. If you didn't know that the emolument clauses were violated by Hillary to the tune of $2 billion, and then we gave away over $76 billion in returns to those same countries who donated to her in military weapons and contracts and free money through USAID, then you're just not awake. So take the pill and realize in a matter of time, we are going to see what both Michael and myself and Betsy and the rest of us who are part of the Second American Revolution have been saying for about 3 years now. We are going to finally see that this is the biggest crisis in U.S. history. And that is not an exaggeration.